Rosin speaks, she just don't mention her family. Don't get nervous. She's a preacher. I'm a teacher, but she spirit will carry her.
Greetings, family. It's wonderful to be here and to see everyone here. We are going through all kinds of changes these days because we live in such a modern time. Even looking downtown, we see there's around 57th Street, there's a building that is 130 stories high. Can you imagine? People wanting to live 130 stories high. It's not a building, it's a condominium. I mean, it's not for business. And so people are moving in that direction. It costs $60 million for a condominium, and that's the lowest price. We find that corporations are buying others and building while there's gentrification. We're expanding bigger and bigger doesn't always mean the best. We understand that too from people who are in the natural health. We know we'll see these gigantic carrots, but it's GMO. We'll see these gigantic, instead of a chicken leg, it looks like a turkey leg, but it's a chicken, and so bigger and bigger may be GMO. And so that we want to be about training the younger generation so that they'll be able to separate the wheat from the chaff, that they'll be able to understand because something is big and huge, it may not be the essence of the ancestry that was built on values and principles and wonderful things. Like you go to Ghana and you find that people were dealing with the Adinkra symbols, not just for the art's sake, but because they represented solidity and values. Patience, love, endurance. Or you can group those Adinkra symbols into sections, and each of those sections will give you a language in and of itself. So
welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. We have Professor Jeffries on his way. That was the 55th anniversary of their marriage at what's that called?
National Black Theater.
National Black Theater. Welcome to the show, Brother Leroy.
Thank you, sir.
And, of course, Brother Graham.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We haven't seen you in a couple of weeks now. How's it going?
Well, very well.
You know anything? You know Rosalind Jeffries?
Oh,
Dr. Jeffries?
She is the knowledge that she has in terms of the cultural piece, the artifacts, and that's, if you're able to sit down with her, you will get such an appreciation for our original art as opposed to buying just stuff. You'll get the spiritual aspects of the artworks, the artifacts, and the why of the production of those things. She's a gem in any group of women who are able to harness her time, and whether they did it by Skype, by phone, in person, they're in for a treat. She is. And you can see her strength. Yeah. You can see her strength. And there's something about the knowledge that we have, and as you accumulate it, you become stronger. Right. And stronger because it is contrary to the stereotype that we've been given ever since, and in modern times also, in my assessment.
Beautiful. Graham?
I've never had the opportunity to catch her live, only on tape. I'm waiting for her to grace us.
Well, I've been trying that for a long time.
You know,
we can only get Dr. Jeffries.
I mean, Doc, you know, he doesn't.
He's protective.
I don't know if he allows her out, but he could bring her. But I've never had the opportunity of catching her live.
Yeah.
Her input into the diaspora, the essence of who we are and where we come from, and even as a woman, she stands head and shoulders above many. And I align her with Dr. Adelaide Sanford.
Yes, very much.
Who I call my second mother.
Yeah.
going back over 50 years now,
Yeah.
40, 50 years. But I put the two of them on the same plane.
Yeah.
And I think of that term beloved, which Dr. Sanford always used. But the way she speaks with conviction. And there's no fear. The love is there. And the desire to inform you and educate you, you know, it's so genuine the way she presents whatever it is that she has to say to any group of people.
And reason why I bring her up, because she's, even with the African identity, she's a Sunday school teacher. And she speaks of Jesus, and it takes the whole accumulation of all religions and combines them to the original of Kemet, and us being the spiritual people of the planet, and understanding our history, the history of spirituality, for humankind, all right? So we're waiting for Dr. Jeffries right now, but share us let's get a little bit into the political scene so we can compare to what's really desperately needed in this country right now. It's a little spirituality in D.C., because these demons are really going awry. I mean, I see it as a test. I'm always saying it's a test. It's a test of our spirituality to tame the devil in all of us and stop hating. I stopped hating on Trump. When I stopped hating on Trump, I became much happier. I became much happier because this man is just beyond ridiculous. And then when I found out Devin Nunes is part of this whole Ukraine business, and to listen to Nunes, I call him Devil Nunes. All you have to do is change the N to a L. You got Devil Nunes, you know? So, and he's truly a devil. And to see him spurt all that garbage that came out of his mouth when he had this little 10 minutes to speak. It's just so amazing how people would sit there and lie through their teeth for whatever power they're getting. Eventually they have to be found out. This is the age of, you got to do everything out front. And Trump is one, he's not a guy that'll hide anything. He'll come out in your face and tell you exactly what he did wrong. And he's been doing that for 3 years. And yet these Republicans go for the New York con. I call Trump is nothing but a New York con. He always has been. And he's managed to take half of America, well, a third of America, and brainwash them. And being a New Yorker, can you see how, as native New Yorkers, we understand it much more, and how it makes white supremacy look? See, we have to realize what is showing up their own ignorance. And we, being the spiritual people, have to take it and judge people by the content of their character.
While we prepare to defend ourselves.
Of course. That goes
from
without
these
saying.
individuals, mentally and physically and spiritually, as you point out. When you hear Trump, if we agree that he is a New York con,
Yeah,
a con, he has an army behind him.
Yes.
So it's a different energy that he carries.
Putin.
He's got his own private security. He's got his own. He went into the White House with his own private security.
Okay.
And according to what I read in their materials,
Okay. Study enemy.
the point is, we would call it in the street, he's just butchering stuff off.
Yeah.
So that's a different kind of con. I see the business part where he would be deceitful in business.
Right.
But the fact that he has an army behind him, I'm talking about America, the government behind him as he plays his cards.
The Republican Party.
It's not that it changes anything, but it's how the style. The guy plays different from how other politicians have been able to play. Well, maybe they've done it in their small
So you're
enclaves.
saying it was always there, but we never
Yeah.
see it in your face.
In Chicago, Mayor Daley.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I was in Chicago when Daley was in Chicago.
Yeah.
That was gangster. Full,
There you go.
full out and out gangster.
Yeah.
On the way here, earlier in the year, one of the senators who left, who took a stance against, he's from Arizona, I don't remember his name. They were talking about him today, as a matter of fact. But I encountered him on 59th Street walking over here one day. And I said to him, our eyes caught as he was coming down the street. And I started nodding my head. He started smiling as though he knew me, but he knew I was going to stop him. And I said, Senator, you're bailing out because you don't believe you could win again because of what Trump has done and said in Arizona. I don't understand you bailing out instead of fighting to the end. Those who are not in agreement with him need to stand fast regardless of the next election in their state.
Right.
I said, you did a disservice to us by leaving office. Trump is who he is. Eddie Glaude, Dr. Eddie Glaude of Princeton, did a piece, and you can go on MSNBC, just put Dr. Eddie Glaude in, and he said, Trump is who we are, and don't act like you don't know this. Don't blame Trump for Trump. This is who we are as a country. Don't think because Obama was here for 8 years that all of this divisiveness hasn't been around. It's just been shaded.
It's never been this bad.
But the fact is, it's been
never
here.
been this bad. In your face.
It's been here.
Like Leroy said, it's been here, but it's never been in your face like this.
Maybe not like this, but this is nothing new. They have been manipulating.
And it's only a third of the country.
Only a third.
Okay.
Only a third. And the third
So what
is
are the other 2/3 of the country doing?
well,
Sitting on the fence?
Looking at the hearings, the evidentiary material that they put out, and we didn't even get to hear all of the material they had. I had told friends of mine, don't worry, it's going to, like I told you, even with Mueller and all that, investigations are slow in process, but detailed. I told people months ago, Trump is running around, not Trump,
Mala?
the devil incarnate, Giuliani.
Oh.
He's running around in Europe, and
Another New York
they are
car.
definitely getting subpoenas to tap phones and do everything they need to do to build a case. And that report yesterday brought that to the forefront. They got all of Giuliani's phone logs.
Yeah.
All right? We call it MUDs, Message Unit Directives.
Okay.
We could tell you when you got your phone, the day, the date, the hour, and the second that your phone was turned on, whether it's a cell phone or a landline in your house. We can give you a printout of every call you've ever made. If you've been living in the same place for 50, 60 years, we can print out every call that you've ever made and every call that ever came into your house. So Giuliani isn't a wise guy. He's an idiot. The Southern District of New York does not see him as an old comrade in arms. He is the enemy to them.
Definitely.
And they're going to take him down. They're going to chew him up. And even if they don't impeach Trump, Giuliani is going to be facing federal charges.
Well,
The same as Manafort faced.
Parnas is turning in evidence. Les Parnas?
Parnas, right.
Parnas.
Right.
He's turning state evidence. So we're in for a real show in 2020. Well, meanwhile, I think we should enjoy our Christmas and
Oh, definitely.
I think we really need to settle down and just be our normal selves and not let this I mean, I'm saying this because I've decided to do this myself, You all remember how riled up I've been about this.
The great,
This man.
great Trump.
And I'm just going to lay back and watch this show because ain't no much more we can do.
What's being revealed to us is what has been there. See,
But not in this, not this heavy.
well, what I said earlier, it was in little enclaves like Chicago,
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Yep.
Philadelphia.
Okay.
Wasn't that Rizzo?
Yep.
Where they bombed.
Oh.
They bombed.
Well, we're going back
They bombed. And
30, 40 years.
They bombed that block. Move. Operation Move. Right.
and
Well,
they did it while a black mayor was in
update
office.
ourselves to the 21st century, and we just go back to 9/11, okay? And that clown act, we all know that was an inside job. If anybody out there doesn't know that 9/11 was an inside job, that was planned demolition. Catch up to yourself. Now, this is just a major theme of the 21st century. Look what we had to go through. 2001, Twin Towers demolished by 2 planes, 110-story buildings falling down in 10 seconds from fuel, gasoline fuel. No way that can happen. Never happened on the planet Earth that a building that size falls down by fire.
Everything up to that point, what we saw in terms of tall buildings and stadiums being brought down, they were brought down in their own footprint. What I didn't understand what they were saying. Footprint. What do you mean by the footprint?
That's the area in which the building is built. It's called the footprint.
Because the beams were cut on a slant, so it falls.
And who cleaned up?
Ontario.
Who was authorized? Who authorized the cleanup of the crime scene?
Well, see, I was at the crime scene. So
What was that?
They
Giuliani,
said,
wasn't it?
Giuliani.
No.
It wasn't him?
No. Listen, Giuliani is a sucker. He wasn't running. That was the federal government oversaw that.
Okay.
It was considered. They said it was a federal crime scene. Now, Cordite.
Who was in charge of his security in 9/11? One of the Bushes. Wasn't he?
Right.
Who was his
I
not
can't
Prescott.
remember. I can't remember his name. Not Prescott. That's the
That's
grandfather.
The grandfather, right.
You made me lose my train of thought now.
The control of that area.
That was federal. The feds ran that whole operation. As a matter of fact, the military came in one night and removed everybody from the site.
Right.
They went in to extricate the U.S. Treasury vault
Okay.
and the gold bullion, which was stored in the World Trade Center.
Right.
We have the Federal Reserve Bank on Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
There were reserve funds in the World Trade Center because the U.S. Treasury was also in the World Trade Center.
Mm-hmm.
Below ground, there were seven to 9 stories below ground.
Right.
I had been there, I think, as far down as the 5th level before the whole Megillah, but while I was working. But this building could not fall down. A Boeing 747 could have crashed into it. The building would not come down. My mother was in the Empire State Building in the 40s when a B-29 military bomber crashed into the Empire State Building.
Right.
The Empire State Building did not fall down. And you can go back prior to that. You can go back to 1996 with the Oklahoma City bombing.
But there are documentaries showing that there was thermite used
Thermite, right.
on the beams.
And the fire department chiefs, the battalion chiefs, all recorded the fact that thermite was on the beams. Now,
Right.
if
And the
this
beams
was
were
a,
still smoldering 2-3 weeks after the thing fell.
what was burning was in the basement. They kept the Freon for the air conditioning units. It wasn't on the roof. It was in the basement. The Freon releases formaldehyde gas when it burns, and that's why all these guys got cancer. Listening to the government and believing the government
was
said,
asbestos.
oh, the air is okay, it's this and that. No, they had asbestos. My first day there, I went to OSHA. I ain't stupid, and I'm not patriotic. So I said, what do we have? They said, human ash, human bone, concrete, plaster, asbestos, and they went on down the line. I had a biohazard suit, and I wasn't even working in the site. I was across the street on the other side of West Side Highway.
People are still injured today.
But those guys were eating their food in the open air. And in chemistry, you have what's called the Tyndall effect, where you have a solution and you can see particles floating in the solution. That's what the air looked like. And I said to these guys, are you stupid or crazy? No, they said the air is good. I said, what air have you been eating in where you saw all this stuff floating in and you're going to listen to what the government is saying? I said, you're going to die. They're dead or they're dying. The government doesn't care about these quote-unquote heroes, first responders. They gave them surgical masks, knowing that a surgical mask was not going to protect them from the elements in that area. I was down there for numerous days. I had a respirator. A respirator. My vehicle was hosed down every day so that nothing, I didn't carry anything out of the site with me. I was washed down, everything. I got in my car, went home.
No.
All right?
You know, I really feel for the firemen.
And the police who were in that building.
Yeah. You saw them
you
working
imagine
with...
rushing into a building and they blow it up on you? I mean, and these are our most patriotic people, policemen and firemen.
Responders.
I mean, you're rushing into a building like that, trying to save lives, and they blow it up on you.
But back to the steel. All the steel they pulled out of there
Went to Japan.
went to Japan. So how is it that you're having a federal crime scene and you're selling the scrap metal
Right, to Japan.
to make Hondas and Nissans?
Weird story. That's 2001. All right?
Before we leave that, for the audience, there's a source. The website is Architects and Engineers. Architects and Engineers. That's a website that the audience can go to for some information, a lot of information dealing with the structure coming down and architects and engineers disagreeing on the what they call the fake news story that it came down as a result of the planes. Architects and engineers.
Also the Pentagon. I've challenged people. I did a number of...
How about Building 7?
Right.
5:30 in the afternoon.
They set that to bring it down. You know, the
I wish I had the
Pentagon,
clips.
there is no such photograph of an airplane at the Pentagon. An airplane cannot go through a hole. You would have to have the wings on the exterior of the building. You never saw that. So it wasn't an airplane. It might have been a missile they fired, but it was not an airplane. And that missile hit at the least populated area of the Pentagon because there was construction going on in that area. And then in the plane in Pennsylvania, that plane covered a litter field of 8 miles. No such thing as a plane covering a litter field of 8 miles unless it explodes or it's hit with a missile, which is how that plane came down. That plane did not crash. I was at Kennedy in 1975, runway 22 left when a plane crashed at Kennedy Airport. You have an impact crater or you have a trench, but you don't have pieces of a plane stretching over 8 miles from a plane crash. That's impossible.
You're ready to run the second part. All right, we're talking about what's happened in the 21st century, just to talk about the con of New York, really. And you have to realize that 9/11 was a real estate con.
It was more than that.
I mean, from the standpoint that the person who bought it 8 months beforehand, he only leased it, and then had double indemnity on it, and he put out, I forget how many millions, and came back, 44 billion came back to him. Silverstein is his name.
Right.
And we have him on tape where he tells the firemen to pull Building 7.
The detonation charges were already in the building. Right.
But these are things, I'm going over all this to make you aware of the cons that we've been exposed to. And Trump is nothing but a continuation of this. This is the way America's been run for centuries. You know, it's always been a con, and we've been at the bottom of it most of the time. You find most immigrants come here, and by the time they establish themselves and going along with the con or the capitalistic system, which we seem to be excluded from, but we have exposure to it. I mean, if you work hard and keep your nose clean, you can still make it in America. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But you have to get away from the psychological drama of being black in America. And it can be maddening, especially when you try to do right and don't get right. So just stay right and you'll get right, because God is real. All right? Now we're going to have on Professor Jeffries. He's in the wings here. So play item 2, and we have Dr. Rosalind Jeffries at her best.
is a teacher amongst the ASCAT groups. And so that as the serpent, the caduceus shows you the serpents battling back and forward, but at last, as they get toward the top, the power of Most High comes down, and then there's a synapsis in the solar wing discs. And so that outstretched wings, we are victorious. And that's what we knew all the time. And we brought that symbol from ancient Egypt. It moved in the transcontinental form, the solar wing disc, and became part of the Ashanti golden stool. A circle in the middle of the golden stool. They're different from these. The symbol is the golden stool is circle, and there's two appendages on the side that people thought of as butterfly wings, but indeed it was another version. I know it because I know the same symbol moved into the Gua people of Upper Volta, and it was a circle symbol in the middle with outstretched wings. So I say to you finally, our ancestors, we can name them all, mine from South Carolina, and we can take those ancestors and say, yes, they moved through the Middle Passage. They moved through all of these sections of history that Leonard tells about so wonderfully and reminds us so wonderfully. He's a king. He is of the Ashanti line. He has deep symbols and signs from the divine kingship system in him, and also of the Oni, the beads he's wearing of the Oni of Ife. And so what is it like, ancestors who've been through all of that? What is it like, Dr. Jeffries, my husband? What is it like to pass through all of these passages? We don't kill each other. We have differences. You know, people say that oil and water don't belong together. It's not true, you know. We have oil in our human bodies. There's a vitamin E is an oil. The brain is made basically with an oil. Vitamin E is important to the brain, and at the same time, here's the water that flows from the heavenlies down into the deep of the earth and springs back up to become the source of the Blue Nile and the White Nile. So I'm saying our ancestry is supernatural. So when you see the horrors of our society today, keep in mind that you're still living. I want you to holler out your name and then holler out, I'm alive. Do it. The Valley of the Dry Bones is alive on this particular day, the 30th of November. Let us all say amen. Amen.
Well, the lady in the house, the lady of the house, I mean. Rosalind always is dynamic, and I love listening to anything she has to say. So explain to us this 55 years of anniversary, how oil and water are mixing beautifully together, huh?
Well, you're right.
Huh?
Let me thank you for being there for filming.
Oh, I couldn't miss it. Your family,
he
brother.
almost missed it, but
I
he
was
got there in
late. I had a
time.
busy day.
Well, the sound, he got the sound, though.
Yes, but there was so much going on. It was just a wonderful celebration of our experience. In other words, we got connected through Africa. Dr. James H. Robinson married us, and he set Rosalind on her path. In 1960, she went to Africa. I was in Europe studying then. That's when I was meeting Cheikh Anta Diop and all the great minds. And then I went on the same program, 61. And then we when I came back, she wanted to see the new group of people who had gone. And then from that point on, you know, we were connected. 62, I went to Senegal. 63, I went to Guinea. 64, we got married. 65, we went to live in Africa. 66, 67. So we've had this fantastic experience together in reference to the explosion of things African.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's now able to take the deep Christian background that she has and this fantastic
That's right.
African experience, and she's just welding it together. So
beautiful
every day she's at the computer putting, and you can't disturb her. I said, honey, look, it may be the $1 million phone call. Take it. But I just finished, we're getting our archives prepared to be donated to Morgan State University.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Okay.
And we have a whole wall of on one side of the TV room, and that's my study too. And I just went through that wall. It's been there for years, organized, etc. She is organized like nobody has. The whole wall is tapes and lectures and stuff. Wow. The Jeffries family here, the UAM, the conference in Atlanta, Ethiopia, Haile Selassie. Wow. It's amazing, just amazing. And then that's the whole wall. But then when you go in the closet, she has up in the closet 3 feet up all of these things. And she's just, she knows how to organize. And
can we come to the house and do a show?
Well, no,
He's got to get permission.
No, we've thought about it. The problem is that when people come in the house, they say, well, how can anybody live like this on all these books, this art, etc.? But it's a spiritual experience. We know where every piece of art came from. We know that the big Oni of Ife pieces, the Queen and the King, we carried them. Brother Small helped us carry them physically on the plane from Africa there. There's a picture of Queen T, and in the back on the stage, there was a picture of Queen T with the plume of resurrection and rebirth. That was commissioned from the carpet school in the Nile. When we went there, well, Dr. Ben said, you got to go to Nile, so we've been going back and forth to Nile. She even has when Gil Noble went, when we took the 1,000 people. And
what year was that?
That was in 87. Gil went, we took the 1,000 people. Then he got permission from ABC, which he didn't have before,
like it is.
To go the next year, 88, with Dr. Ben, by himself, only him and Dr. Ben. So Dr. Ben is walking through the temples, it's like it's his living room, etc. So
we have tapes of that?
Yes, and Rosin has organized all of that stuff.
It's
unbelievable.
Man.
I just said, and that's the reason why I'm glad I got the wife I have. Otherwise, we would have said,
you've
this
got
mess
tapes of Dr. Ben and Gil
in the Nile
Noble
Valley by themselves. And she has all of it. And
that's got to be shown, Doc.
That's far better than Gates and what he's doing.
She even has Gates, the challenge of me against Gates. She has Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, I got a book, I opened it up, and there were photos. There's a photo of Emperor Haile Selassie greeting Kwame Nkrumah.
1950, 59?
No, it was in the 60s. Then we open the next photo is Kwame Nkrumah with his 2 children in Ghana, and you can see the people in the back with the kente cloths and whatnot.
Tell us how important Ghana is.
And his young daughter, who's like this, she is now running for political office in Ghana.
Remind the people how important Ghana is.
And Ghana is the key because Ghana was the capstone, the keystone in our building a Pan-African bridge between the population scattered throughout 100 million in Brazil, millions in the Caribbean, and of course the 40 million we have here in America, and the rest of the continent. So Ghana is the keystone. It's the bridge between us that were taken out. And Ghana has 60 slave forts and dungeons. And the only person who's been in all of the 60 slave forts and dungeons is myself. And she has
60?
them. We had to. There are 60. Wow. And our hotel is perched on a hill overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. And 4 miles in this direction is Elmina, where the enslavement started in 1482, before Columbus sailed the ocean blue. the Portuguese and others were on the coast of Africa trying to set up the slave system. And then you look, and the Dutch took it over from the Portuguese in 1637. The Dutch took it over from the Portuguese, who were there from 1482. And then you look 2 miles in the other direction, and there's Cape Coast Castle Dungeon. And that's where the Swedes got it started in the 1600s, 1660. The English took it over after that. So all of that history that we're seeing in the books and in the document, we've lived it. I lived in Cape Coast Castle Dungeon for 2 weeks. Oh,
Somebody's calling you.
that's Dr. Clark calling from on the Great Beyond, saying, "Do it, lay it out."
You know,
Go, Dr. J. Oh God.
there is
Oh goodness.
there's a talk.
Oh wow.
The Prime Minister of
Daniel. Daniel, where are you calling from?
Ghana.
Where in Ghana?
I'm in Cape Coast.
Where? Say it loud. Say it again. Where are you?
Actually, I'm in Cape Coast.
Okay, and that's where you live. And not too far from you is what great
My
castle
goodness.
dungeon?
My goodness.
Yes, I live near Castle Dungeon, yes.
Okay. And then who are you? What is your claim to fame?
What?
In other words, what is your relationship to me?
My dad?
Say it loud.
My dad.
Say it again.
My dad.
Say it the 3rd time.
My dad.
Okay, now tell your wife and the family I'm on TV now, and so
And it's live.
when we finish with it, I'll be able to send something, and then you check with me later. But you interfered with a very important phone call. I was just telling these people that we have a special relationship with Africa, a special relationship with Ghana, and then lo and behold, Dr. Clark and the Creator said, "Let the young man call you so they can see the truth and feel the truth and understand." There has to be a God, and she is sitting on high, African as she can be.
That's
she
right.
is sitting on high. Can we be here talking about Elmina and have a
This
call
is-
from Ghana
it's
occur?
not
There
coincidental.
is spirit that is moving with us. So
Amen.
we'll talk later. All right, the best to the family. Okay.
That was a Skype in by phone.
You know, you're talking about Ghana.
See?
Now,
How
that's,
could you-
see,
how could you
see,
falsify
now,
that?
Now, this is magical. See, what we're talking about is, Doc, I mean, we know it's magic occurring here. And it's for us to take hold of it and coordinate between all our different ideas, aspects, our callings here in life, and it's to recognize the God that lies within all of us. That's spiritual and that's natural. And fight the demons that lie within us too. So tell us how we can do this. I mean,
Well,
now you're spinning. Now we have to remember, Hakeem is at the.
He's in the
Hakeem
congressional
Jeffries
hearing,
is right now in the middle of government of this. He's in the belly of the beast. Your
well,
nephew's in the belly of the beast, and he's the best political analysis. Gives the best political analysis of what's going on now. Now, how do we combine
when
them
I
all?
was leaving the house,
He was on.
he was on.
Okay.
And they announced that they wanted some words from Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, who's the 5th ranking Democrat in that process.
Right.
But he is the most important because he represents the future.
Right.
And
Exactly.
he's in between the 60 and 70-year-olds and the new 30 and 40-year-olds,
Right.
and he has an experience. He has a spirituality around him. And so it is not by happenstance that he has the name Hakeem. His mother and father in the 70s, they felt, we wanted to identify with these nice names, so Hakeem. But I said, no, that's good. They're not Muslim. My brother's into a heavy African, Universal Goju Asian African martial arts, and his wife is as strong a Christian, every day standing up as can get. That's Sister Rosa.
Okay.
But I said, we got to link him to the ancestors.
Right.
And so his name is Hakeem, but I gave him the name Sekou, for Sekou Touré. And then 2 years later, here comes another one out of her sacred womb. And they link it up with Hakim Hassan. And so that's cool. I said, yes, but we can't stop there. We got to link it up spiritually. And so Hassan's name is Kwame, after Kwame Nkrumah. They came in, we stamped them, and they have never given the family a day of grief in their 40-plus lives. Both of them have their children. Hakim's son is tall. I got to look up to him. Even the youngest one now, he's as tall as I am. Their sons have never given the family a day of grief in their lives. His youngest brother helped to produce this process.
1619?
The 1619. This is the Atlantic Ocean that the hotel looks at, that we have, that special place we have, looking over the Atlantic Ocean. Now, Hassan has been there with the Ashanti King, with Camille Yarborough,
Oh, wow.
with
Okay.
Dr. Clark, and his son, his youngest son, Sonny Ali, he named him after a great life. And then Brother Small's son was there. We're talking about, there was a large picture which you may not have, you should have taken a picture. It was when we went to Africa in '86, to West Africa. Hassan Kwame was there, standing next to Nana Sapang, the paramount chief who installed all of us. And when he installed us, they gave us these names, Nana Kwekujua Ajiman II. That ain't just some name to be playing with. I'm looking at the list of Ashanti kings, and they've combined two Ashanti names, Kwekujua Ajiman. Two lines of a rulership was put together and stamped on myself, and then Professor Smalls and the others. And my wife, they give the female principal this same acknowledgement. We have lived this, and so we don't have to fake it. All that stuff that you saw was not planned. They said, where's the program? Who's going to say a poem? Who's going to read this and that? I said, no, I'm waiting for the Spirit to move in me, and you saw what happened. We're going to do the same thing this Saturday in Jersey with a lot of the extended family. But if y'all don't understand that we are here because of Spirit, you missed the boat. And when Kwame Ture left this mess here and went to West Africa, he took the composite, Kwame Nkrumah, and Ture, Sekou Ture. And he lived out the rest of his spiritual life. And he left his great work, ready for the revolution. And it took him years to produce that. He couldn't have done it if he didn't have Michael Thurwell, Professor Michael Thurwell, who from Jamaica, or Trinidad, one of his buddies. But where did he, when he came into New York and he wanted to meet with Mike, where did they meet? They met on Convent Avenue. Where? Clark House.
Wow.
There,
Clark House.
Two doors from Clark, in the shadow of Clark House. The apartment house, when you get to 142nd, is where Jerry Price and Jeannie Bain, members of my staff, lived. Well, Jerry had two apartments, one in the building next door. One. She gave that apartment to Kwame Ture to be there with Michael Thurwell to finish his book, Ready for the Revolution. So I'm coming down Convent Avenue like I did thousands of times over 40 years, and then I see cops and whatnot. And I'm saying, what's going on? And they were all over the buildings and whatnot. And so I parked my car eventually and came back. Who was in Professor Jerry Price's apartment with Kwame Ture and Michael Thurwell? Minister Louis Farrakhan had stopped the world. Stop the world, let me get off. He had come down to pay his respects to Kwame Ture, and the cops and the police were all over because Farrakhan was in the neighborhood. Oh, God.
You have to, come on, Doc, you got to turn it off this time.
Sorry, can't handle you now. We're in the midst of a TV program, and I got my orders from Brother Gilchrist to chill. Now,
Cut it off!
who am I talking to?
He doesn't even know who he's talking to.
Hey, Dr. Georgina Pellew. She's the one that set up all of these. We have a foundation. Alambe has a foundation. Dr. Clark, yes, Dr. Georgina Pellew. She has given and empowered us to put these foundations in place so we can do what we need to do.
On Saturday is the memorial for Donald Smith in Abyssinian at 11.
As you see,
Okay. So I'm going to announce.
Doc is busy.
I'm going to announce it. No, but she.
Now you can see why he's always
But why
Not-
it's on
not on
time?
time.
Why is it on time? In the morning, is it going to be at 11 o'clock?
At 11 in the morning.
Okay, good, good,
you know
good.
what I want you to
Dr.
do?
Fallu,
If
we
you
got
get a chance, I want you to
Dr.
roll it
Fallu,
back to the
we have to
second
cut it off. I'm on
video.
TV now, but I'll
Stanley,
announce it.
that you missed.
Okay, Doc.
You have to
Now-
roll it back to the first, and there's a second video
Now,
in there, which I
Brother
want
Gilchrist,
to.
this is timely.
No, this is great. I
We're
love it.
having our second part 2 at 2 o'clock in Newark, New Jersey. Anybody
Okay.
wants to come? It's 555 Martin Luther King Drive. It's
Martin Luther King Drive.
Martin Luther
Graham?
King Boulevard or whatever in Newark, across from. But Dr. Fallu wanted to let me know that they're
Is it-
honoring
when is it?
Saturday.
Saturday.
But at 11 o'clock, they're honoring
I
Donald
work on
Smith,
Saturdays.
one of our very special brothers who helped us set up Clark House and whatnot. So that 11 o'clock works for me because our celebration is at 2. So I can go pay my respects at Abyssinia and then come back in Jersey and be in it.
Okay.
So thank you.
Can you mention it in television? Mention it in the program?
Give us some idea.
Yes, I will mention it. Thank you, Dr. Philo. Thank you very much. She was very close to Dr. Donald Smith, who handled the African studies at Baruch College. And then he worked with us. He was a part of the Clark House board.
Okay.
And so, and I'm glad she mentioned it because I'd hear about it later.
That's going to be where? Abyssinian Church?
It's going to be at Abyssinian at 11 o'clock for Donald Smith. And then ours will
Abyssinian in
be...
Manhattan?
Abyssinian,
The
yes.
only one. That's it.
Abyssinian. In fact, they gave him a great celebration at Baruch College, where he was for years. And then Reverend Butts and others had said, well,
Okay.
let's honor him at Abyssinian. So that's good. So we'll have a chance to... I missed the Baruch College, so I'll be able to go to Abyssinian, honor him. And Abyssinian is a special space for us.
Yes.
I should have brought the newspaper. I didn't. We set up the communiversity. When the big stuff came at me, Reverend Butts and the others who knew who I was and what I was all about said, you can have the church. Not for an event. We had it for a year. Every week we were in the church putting down the African knowledge. That needs to be recorded. That needs to be what we're all. Donald Smith was a head of an educators organization. Besides working with us, he worked with Adelaide Sanford. He, at the time of his leadership of this Black National Teachers Association, he organized a march for Zimbabwe. We were marching in the streets to recognize Zimbabwe. So here you have these teachers who have these jobs in the classroom, but they still know that Spirit has to move them to a larger responsibility of mobilizing our people. So for all of it to be happening day after day, for the office of the president of Morgan State College to call, and then I answered the call, and I missed it because it was after 5. But there was this beautiful message on Morgan State University's. I mean, I was smiling and I answered it. I said, this is the most wonderful call I had. In other words, just a voice and whatnot. And so black folk have a way. So I hung up. Well, this morning I got a call from Morgan State. Get your university, get your stuff ready. We're going big time over this year. We prepared this. We're linking up the Parent Mitchell, the Mitchell family out of Baltimore. They have a lot of leadership. Thurgood Marshall, a dormitory is named after Thurgood Marshall. And of course, Thurgood Marshall was my idol. And I have pictures of us here on 125th. He used to live in Morningside Gardens. Reverend Robinson lived there. Thurgood Marshall lived there. Constance Motley lived there. There is a movement in our... We do not understand it. We were here for the special place in Harlem. We say, well, it is special, but not just for playing the music and whatnot. I appreciate that because I played sax for 15 years.
Oh, really?
Alto and tenor. I played in the dance. I was the tenor soloist. I was trying to be John Coltrane and all the rest of them. When I was 10 or 12 years old, I played sax solo at my grammar school graduation of all these white boys and a few of us. And I gave the speech because I was president of the class. I was in the dance band, the Blue Jackets, in high school. I stopped playing in college because I said, if you're going to be, you got to choose between wanting to be a lawyer or wanting to be John Coltrane or whatnot. So that's when I put the
That's
sax down.
amazing.
But when I went to Europe, 59, 60, the people said, "You play a sax? Well, you didn't even bring your mouthpiece." I said, "Well, I didn't know." They wanted me to play all of you. I played basketball in Europe. I wanted me to try to play a little sax in Europe. My wife has a baby grand piano upstairs in her special space in
You
our
play
house.
piano too?
No, but Rosalind played baby piano. She's played concert down at what is it, Carnegie Hall.
Really?
Yes, and in her space up there where she prepares the lessons is 1,000 books on African art and culture. And then there's the baby grand piano. The books are so heavy that she had special bookcases made to hold them. But what she does is she doubles the books up, and so some of the cases couldn't hold. But so she still has the books piled up, you know. And then she has the African art pieces there. For whatever little spiritualness she can ream from that. And then she knows who she is when it comes to her Christianity. She goes into the churches. She knows that there's going to be some opposition.
You know,
because of her knowledge
Right.
of a larger
now, is it possible
understanding.
for us to one day perhaps even Skype her in? You know, let us sit in the house on a laptop and have her come to us by Skype.
You have several beautiful, yes. She really wants to finish her work. Let me just say this to the world. She really wants to finish her work. So that's why it's good that I don't ask her, where's my dinner or this or that. You know, they got a beautiful restaurant up the street. We've been there 40 years, and it's called, what is it called? Oh, goodness. It's a black restaurant. And in fact, I don't pay. The fellow who runs it is a preacher. He's got 3 generations of his family there. All of the children know. When I pull out lunch, they say, Professor, you know where to put that money. So I have to give him a big tip. I feel guilty because, but see, we need to understand that that's the life that Dr. Clark lived. That's the life that Gil Noble lived. That's the life that Francis Cress Welsing lived. That's the life and if you do it as a couple, then there's some special power. Because when you get weak, then
the other one picks
you up, etc. She pushes me out of the way. I can get out the door. I can take my bags out. No, I'm taking them down so you don't slip and slide. I was at 5 o'clock in the morning taking care of the snow and putting me on ice, knowing that she had to get up to get out there early. So you just do those things. Well, luckily, he's been there. Look at how cool he looks. If he didn't have his wife standing next to him and carrying him all through the stress and whatnot,
well, the wind beneath my wings.
But what we want to be able to do is talk about these great individuals, but also great couples. Wade Nobles and his wife, they called to congratulate us, to let us know that they have us beat by 1 year. They're 56 years.
Oh, fabulous.
And his son and his lady just produced another male child. So they call. Gil Noble couldn't have done what he did if he didn't have Gene. Gene took care of those 5 kids. You think Gil was worried about those kids? No, Gene raised those kids. And Dr. Ben, he talks about all the kids he had. He ain't raised a single one. Ain't had nothing to do with none of them. It was his first wife who took care of him. And then Gertrude had a second wife. She took care of him. And so we have to understand and see this work, these power couples. One of the great
Dr. Ben say God's a woman?
That's right. And so he saw the divine in spirit in the female principle. Right. We have this male-dominated culture, etc. But on the Jeffries side, we are so male-oriented. I have my oldest cousin, he's named after our grandfather, Jesse Jeffries, and he had 4 boys, even a set of twin boys. And then my uncle...
Tell me a story about your brother and how you were born first and got all the attention. And so he came around 21 months. And he tells his story at the event. And with his brother sitting there.
Sitting right there. And,
right?
and to have a younger brother who looks up to the older brother and who has his own presence. We have never In other words, to have a wife who's a special spirit moving to the world, to have a brother who carved out his own destiny into the martial arts. When we have the thing on Saturday, I have pictures of him breaking bricks and whatnot. They made me an honorary member of his,
dojo.
Dojo, because the head of it, the brother was so powerful. He was shot like 29 times and survived and still got 9 bullets in him. And he's just an unbelievable spirit. They put that spirit on me and next to me. And when the Ashanti people put the spirit, the chief priestess gave me 7 rings. She died a few years ago at 102. And I don't know where my wedding ring used to be around here somewhere, and even Rosalind, she does a lot of painting, so her wedding ring slipped off. But the chief priestess of Ashanti absorbed us as a part of them. And so when her children were sent to America, her son-in-law, a brilliant physicist, and the daughter, her oldest daughter, they didn't send them to the Ashanti folks here. They sent them to Rosalind and I. And so we relate to them as our children.
Yeah.
When the Brazilian artist Siciliano came to New York, and he wanted to link up, him and his mulatto wife Paula, who's a wonderful spirit. Siciliano is one of the African artists. The picture, if you had asked me, I would have let you tell you take some. The capoeira, I took that out of Quara. He did a capoeira painting and he signed it to Siciliano. Well, when he came to America, he stayed in our master bedroom suite for 1.5 years. And him and Paula produced this beautiful child. Now, who else has stayed in that master suite? Dr. Akinjobin, who was the leading figure of the Yoruba, and he has done several books on the Yoruba. He stayed there with his wife and 2 of his children. And so, that's a special, and then in the basement, we had a finished basement. Who stayed there? Cameralai, the brother for a year, who did the book L'Enfant Noir, The Black Child. So what I was trying to say is
30 seconds for Manhattan. I just want to say that the Jeffries described by Professor Smalls was the gods having a human experience. I'll never forget that. And you are rising always to that occasion in my eyes. You know, gods having the human experience. Because I think that dwells within us all. That's the spirituality that we talk about here every week. The God in me loves the God in you.
Right.
And stay tuned for more of the Gilchrist Experience. We'll have senior elders like Professor Jeffries and, of course, Rosalind Jeffries. If we ever get her Skyped in.
Power to our people. Oh, power to Africans.
We got an hour for the Bronx. We got a minute for the Bronx. What do you have, Bob? 1619?
Hakeem's younger brother worked on this.
1619.
1619, and so
where can we find this? On websites? On the 1619 Project website, I believe. The Times?
Yes.
New York Times.
Okay.
Yes.
Gentlemen?
When I flew from
You got 30
Belgium
seconds.
to the Gambia years ago, I was looking out the window. I was sitting on the port side, the left side of the plane, looking out at the Sahara Desert.
Yes.
And you could not tell where the ocean virtually ended and the desert began, except for a thin pink line along the edge. When we got south of there, the waves. I said, this is where our people were extracted south, and the waves were kicking up. But all along the desert,
God bless.
it was just smooth.